Greetings, heroes and Force users of all ages, and welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. As always, I'm Dino Nicandros, and I'm joined by my friend Daniel Dawson.
Hello there.
And my other friend, and second time in, 3 weeks that we are welcoming our friend Chris Villain to co-host.
What's up, you guys?
Series regular?
Series regular?
Whoa.
He's being paid like one as well.
Yeah, sure.
Today we are talking the newest and final Indiana Jones film, The Dial of Destiny. Directed by James Mangold, written by Jez Butterworth, John Henry Butterworth, David Koepp, and James Mangold. And by God, we're Indiana Jones fans.
Da, 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 da!
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntaun, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be back, even if it's digitally, virtually.
I know this isn't nearly as much fun, but
It is not. It is
I was
not. I
gonna
miss you
wear
guys.
this hat the whole time, but I can't do this. This is like, because I can't fit my headphones. See, watch. When I do this, I try to put the headphones on top, and it just makes, I look like an idiot. I can't do this.
it's insulting.
I actually prefer it this way.
You do?
Yes.
It doesn't look like any Jones anymore, though. It looks like...
It's insulting.
It kind of has more of the, like, what are those German hats? The Austrian hats? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. No, that's not what we're looking for.
No.
F this. All right, that's going to have to do.
Oh, Street Daniel's back.
Yeah, what's up? I'm from the streets.
Oh, gosh.
I'm from the Zelda streets. Because I'm wearing my Zelda hat.
Ah, yes.
Wow.
Dial of Destiny.
The Dial of Destiny!
All
We
right,
finally
so
saw it. I've been so hyped about this movie for so long. Although
Yes.
trepidatious because, we were I don't traumatize is a really, really harsh tone, but like most people tend to think that they don't even want to believe that the fourth one even existed.
all right, so that'll be a segment of this episode is we're going to revisit
Certainly.
Crystal Skull. But all right, we've all obviously seen Dial of Destiny
We
for the
did?
last few days. Let's go around town and give your just very general
Generous.
impression, and then we'll dive down into it. Chris, you are the guest of honor.
Guess
Oh.
first.
I thought it was great. I loved it. I thought it was
Yeah.
awesome. I thought it was everything it needed to be.
How
I
many
don't think it...
Tauntauns would you give it?
Out of how many?
Let's
11.
Just say 11.
Out of 11 Tauntauns,
Sure.
I would give it... like 8.
Mhm.
8 Tauntauns.
Out of
8,
11.
Yeah.
Very sensible.
I
Wow.
liked it. I thought it was great. I don't like... Will it win awards? Was it groundbreaking? No, but it was fun, and it was like just the amount of nostalgic it needed to be, and like
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it.
Great.
That was a great
Fantastic.
general thought.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Generally, I agree. I mean, I think it probably, I'm trying to think, it probably helped that I went into it looking at the reviews being as like kind of mediocre to sour as they were, because generally in those, like when that's happened in the past, I kind of go in with my arms like less firmly crossed, I guess, because I'm just like, I'm just in it for the ride. It's probably not going to be a like you said, groundbreaking or super crazy awesome film, but I'm still maybe you might enjoy myself, and I very much enjoyed myself, and was delightfully surprised at how much better it was than what the critics were making it out to be.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm sure we're going to talk about that too. As to potentially why that was the case, but yeah, I generally believe I lean more towards the audience score as opposed to the critics' score.
And you're referring to the Rotten Tomatoes aggregate, which
yes.
now this is actually a recent feature in the last few years in that it has like a total audience score, but it has a verified audience score, which you have to prove. I guess you bought a ticket. And actually saw it, and you're not review bombing it,
which is nice because that tends to be a thing nowadays because people are lame and racist.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's not fine, but fine.
No, it's definitely not fine.
That's not what I meant. Okay, so that's 2 likes, and I'm going to give you a third resounding like.
Wow.
And much to what you said, Daniel, I think knowing it debuted about a little over a month ago in Cannes, and at the time, it sat at like a 47% in terms of, again, this is Rotten Tomatoes. It's not the end all be all.
So hard, I was like, yikes.
But that's alarming.
Yeah, that was scary.
That's alarming, and
so that's like a resounding like, ew, it's not good.
Right. I mean, my worst fears confirmed, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But as it has debuted for American audiences and British audiences and other large markets, that score rose 21 points, and if you read a lot of the recent reviews, they're far more positive, and I think I want to say understanding of what the movie was going for, and which leads into my opinion on it. I think we as a film watching society, and this includes the critics, the professional, the quote unquote professional critics, we've grown very cynical.
Yeah.
And a whole lot less willing to just go on a joyride.
Well,
for the sake of going on a joyride.
Do we get really deep in that conversation? Because like I've really asked myself this question as to why that is the case. And like, is it because we've all been through like so many collective traumas that like we have a really hard time just in being joyful again anymore?
Yeah, well, look, I think
we're having, because we've now, is it really more the like, oh, we've gotten so many doses of this that, it's just I've had too much dessert, please no more cheesecake.
Well, look, I think unfortunately as of late meaning really in the middle of the pandemic and post-pandemic, we've had a run of really mediocre big budget movies.
Yeah.
And
like just
I
getting us by.
I also wonder if the generation behind us, they were very young kids when Crystal Skull came out. Do they really care about Indiana Jones? And,
I mean, and should we look
did
at
the world kind of forget about him a little bit?
Do you know what the weekend box office was? Because I know it wasn't what they hoped
it was. It was underperforming in the sense that they spent almost $300 million on this movie. That's why it's underperforming.
She was a thick film.
Because if they had spent, say, 150 on it, they had a great weekend.
Sure.
So,
but, I mean, could they couldn't just spend $150 million on that?
Yeah, fine, but we can get back to that in a moment. But I had a fantastic time watching it. I smiled. I cried at the end.
Aww,
I was very my girlfriend can attest to that. Like I was very invested in Indy's journey. Maybe it's for the simple fact. What was the part that
got you? Was it the
It's when Marion walks in the door, and I was just like, "Hey, please."
I know.
There were actually a couple other moments, and I think it's.
Where you squirted some?
If not a testament to the movie overall, definitely a testament to kind of letting Harrison Ford go somewhere with Indy where he's never really gone before.
Yeah.
In experiencing real loss and accepting it and accepting that time has passed him by, and that
I really, really thought we were just gonna get like a cute little haha joke about Shia LaBeouf, but they made that into like a really sad and amazing acting moment for
They murdered him in cold blood
in Vietnam.
Literally murdered him, bro.
Oh
They
my
sent
God.
Shia LaBeouf to Vietnam.
Yeah, I mean, really, honestly though, like, you're gonna get like it's kind of like it really is brilliant because they killed two birds with one stone. I mean, for lack of a better term, unfortunately, but they
Too soon.
yes, too soon. They got rid of Shia LaBeouf, like they gave him a reason why he's not there, but they also like made that like the heart of the film almost, which is like I feel like that's an unheard of thing because like normally in my head as a writer you're just like, let's get as far away from that as we possibly can. We'll like give him a little hint as to why he's not there, but they kind of like made that part of his like of why he is the way he is right now, and that's like really kind of like I think that's good on the writers. I thought it was a really smart choice.
Well, and since we are on the topic of Mutt, Shia LaBeouf's character,
Oh yeah, that's right.
let's talk Crystal Skull real quickly.
Sure.
So at the heart of a lot of these reviews, it's either I feel like the way this movie's being measured was it better or worse than Crystal Skull? And
Okay, I have an issue with this.
Please, go.
I loved Crystal Skull.
No,
And,
that's not a bad
Okay.
opinion.
Crucify me at the stake right now. But
there will be no crucifixion here.
I really liked that movie. I think I may have been of the generation that they were trying to target.
Maybe.
So maybe I'm a little skewed in that sense, but also
Do you remember how old you were?
no, I was
We were probably
could-
about
Teenager, right?
yeah.
it was 2008, so it was
Oh yeah.
that was 15
was-
15 years ago?
Yeah, I was like
That's
early
crazy it
teens.
was that long ago.
Yeah, I was 15 or 16 for that one.
You
But
were
like
Yeah, it was 2008.
Oh my God.
I was in high school.
But like, why was it bad? Why did people not like it? I don't understand.
So yeah, it comes. There was numerous reasons why a lot of people didn't really. I think that obviously the hype was super real, and it's like it's been since it was how many years had it been since we had
1989 was the last
was the final one?
Last Crusade.
Yeah, so
88 or 89.
almost 20 some odd years of a wait. So people were really chomping at the bit, and I think that it just
Alien. The aliens didn't sit well with people.
Yeah.
Or
As a
rather
concept?
how they were represented. Maybe. I know
And,
what
like-
set people off. Like some of the set pieces, like Mutt swinging through the trees with the monkeys, and there were a couple things. Well. Indy in the lead refrigerator when the nuke goes off.
Okay, sure.
I mean, you could explain a few things.
Which
but, like,
out
I
of the
mean, like,
three is the least crazy to me, honestly.
I
But-
know, truly. He's been through a lot of shit, and you could you could explain away certain things because he basically drank from the frickin' the cup of Christ, the Holy Grail.
Yes.
So maybe he's got some legit magic shit going on
No.
inside.
I feel like this is a weird kind of almost like Star Wars-esque phenomenon where it's like people are expecting something that was groundbreaking in the past, and that just won't translate. So
I think that's
you
a
want
very
to
good point.
you want to
very
feel
good
the
point.
same thing, but it's like regardless, they could give you exactly what you want,
Yep.
but you're not gonna like it
But you're still
because
not
it's
gonna
not
like
groundbreaking as it was in the past, you
Right.
know? And I feel like the more I hear about why people dislike Crystal Skull or why people would dislike this movie, I feel like it's one of those because I'm like, it was fine. It was a
Yeah.
great movie. Like, why are we complaining?
I definitely didn't fall in the camp of this movie is terrible. Is it my least favorite of the four? Yes. Or
Yeah.
at least at the time. That didn't mean that it was a terrible film and there weren't aspects of it that were very enjoyable and highly entertaining. And oftentimes cool to look at. I know that there was some CGI that was kind of questionable here and there, but I mean, but yeah, so I guess going to your point though, about I believe that this one, the fifth one, definitely sits at a higher point than 4. I think 4 still for me is my least
So
favorite.
I watched Crystal Skull. Actually, while I was at your house, I watched it again, Daniel, when I was falling
Without
asleep one
me?
night. Without you. I fell asleep to it several nights in a row, just watching it in parts. And
We were tired.
I for a long time. So I remember liking it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the years afterwards, I am a victim of joining the cult of this. This was horrible.
How rumph.
I can now say I have sipped from the Holy Grail, and I am not of that opinion anymore. After watching it very recently, it is a damn fine Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah.
And
it does all the things that you
some
want
of the things
an
that
Indiana Jones
bothered
movie to do.
Right. And some of the things that bothered me still do, but honestly, like even Indy, having the wherewithal to climb into a lead fridge to escape an atomic blast. Okay, look, is he going to survive getting flung 5 miles? Probably not.
Probably
but,
not.
But
the man's been shot 9 times.
Right,
though.
but that goes into a long list of things he shouldn't have survived. But even looking at that moment, I go, within the rules, quote unquote, of the Indiana Jones world, having the wherewithal to jump in something that reflects radioactivity
He's a
is
smart guy.
super smart. And then, the aliens, having the Russians kind of be the bad guys, and then having aliens kind of be the end game. That was the 1950s. Those were the two things everyone was the most
Everybody
afraid
was
of.
talking about it, yeah.
So, it makes a ton of sense in that regard. All that to say, I don't approve of the reviews that were positive for this movie on the grounds that Crystal Skull was horrible and this just cleared that bar. I don't think that's fair, and I think that actually does a disservice to reviewing this movie, because I think this one was surprisingly good, and the only reason I say surprising is because of what we just discussed. Like, I think it more than cleared the bar left by Crystal Skull, but that's because I think it's actually good.
Yeah.
And not because Crystal Skull is a horrible movie.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And this, I think that this, the bad guy in this too, I think that like his journey was a little more like believable too, question mark, I guess. I don't know why, but it
he is, I mean, especially if you go back to, I don't know, somebody like Walter Donovan from Last Crusade, and he's just kind of a bad dude.
Yeah.
And so is this one. But I do like that we kind of get the origin story, but we kind of get the he starts absolutely bad, but you get to see the thought process more, I think.
I think this movie had like a really easy trap it could have fallen into, where they could have just made it like a fat nostalgia trip.
Yes.
And like it not that they didn't do that, but like they could have relied on that entirely.
Yes.
And I thought they handled that really well.
I do too.
Like,
yeah. There was definitely moments
just the right amount.
It still felt like they were like, it was a very gentle wink a lot of times, like, like they didn't use like straight up snakes, they used eels instead, but we all got the joke. We're like, haha. I mean, yeah. Oh, you know what I was actually thinking too, because I'm curious what your guys' thoughts were about this, but like, I know I mentioned it like in our text thread with Dino and Alyssa, but I was convinced, because the Dial of Destiny, and they kept on talking about, and we've seen trailers of like younger version of Indy, and everybody's like, oh, that's just a flashback. I was just like, I don't know, guys. There's gonna be time travel in this. Like something about this. It stinks to high heaven about time travel. And I was worried about it, because like time travel in movies, like A, is hard, and B,
overdone.
It kind of like sometimes cheapens the journey of your previous films sometimes.
Yeah, and we've just seen it a lot recently.
We've also seen it.
It's kind of the flavor of the month.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was going back to what you were saying about being nervous about the nostalgia train, is I thought that we were gonna do nothing but time travel throughout the entire film, and it was just going to be, let's go all to our favorite moments of Indiana Jones. You know what I mean? And I'm very
gosh,
glad
that would
that
have
they
been
didn't do
bad.
that, because and I think maybe that's part of the reason why I enjoyed it more than I thought, because I was like worried that it was just going to be like that.
Well, yeah, and to kind of riff off of that, we'll dedicate a little section to the third act because it deserves to be talked about on its own. But
almost a fourth act, really.
But so the Dial of Destiny, the Antique Thera, I thought it was genius because I was so worried, to your point, about just a time hopping movie. I'm not sure it necessarily fit Indiana Jones. But then to find that the device was specifically built to return somebody to this exact moment.
It's cool.
And I was like, that's really cool. That plays on our expectation of expecting this to be
That was
some
a big
sort
surprise,
of thing.
for sure.
Yeah. And I remember just audibly going, yep.
Nice.
Yep. Nice. Good call.
Yeah, and it was
Good
literally a callback from like the very beginning of the film, like when he's like, talking about it to his students, like that moment. And I'm obsessed with the fact, because I'm a big fan of archaeology, and like truly, like if I like, especially coming back from Egypt, my trip to Egypt, like if I got like a big load of money, I would pack my bags, go to Egypt, and start digging.
And then be arrested and thrown into Egyptian prison.
Correct.
And then I have to bail you out.
I'd be running from the law. Yeah, it'd be so fun. Oh man, I want to do it so bad. But why the hell did I just bring that up? Oh, yeah, the fact that they based this off of like it's a real thing, a real object.
Yes.
I mean, obviously they took a lot of liberties as to what the device actually does, and because we really don't know. But they literally found this, like, what they can only describe as like one of the earliest, like, computers.
Right.
That and nobody
Us Greeks, man, I'll tell you what.
I mean, you guys have smart folks. But you really think about it. I mean, it's rude not to give, ancient people credit for just being fucking smart as shit, because like we always go like, oh, there's no way. Somebody must have time traveled back in time and like gave them a
aliens.
watch. You know what I mean? But like, we don't know. It was like, this is a long fucking time ago. This was over 2,000 years ago. You talk about the Egyptians and like 4,000 years. How did they cut these like perfect blocks that fit so well together? You can't fit a piece of paper with her. I mean, like, I don't know. We don't know. It was 4,000 years ago. There's technology we just don't know that they had. I mean, literally, like the what do you call them? The tour guides that we had. The two tour guides that we had, both of them, 1,000% convinced that Egyptians had lasers. Like, didn't even like say, oh, this is hypothesis, right? No.
What, they harnessed the power of the sun into laser,
they had lasers, and I was just
aliens.
Like, aliens, also aliens.
Which look,
but also, I mean, in defense, I mean, I love the idea of aliens, Chris, and I'm like, yes, please. But like, it's like it does like the ancient people a discredit, like. They also could have just been hella smart and like had.
Oh, sure, but also aliens.
But Chris's response to you, Daniel, speaks to why Crystal Skull actually works really well.
Yes, correct.
Because people go
again.
Well, sure,
but what about aliens though? Yeah,
aliens, and like if people had a problem with the aliens being in that movie, then I'm like, I think you just don't like aliens because it's very prominent in history, and also like the timeline works out and like everything's fine. So everyone calm down.
Well, and there was also...
And also look at my cool Bigfoot shirt.
Oh my God, your Bigfoot shirt! But a perfect segue to your shirt. Oh my God. I was gonna say too that like the first three films and now this one too, and I think that also was possibly a big redirect because they went like, they're like, hey, maybe we can steer away from the biblical story, and they're like, oh, just kidding, we're going back to the Bible. We're going back to the Bible.
Well, but even in the course of this movie, so you start out, we obviously know it's in the title, but
yeah,
the whole first 20 minutes is kind of centered around the Lance of Longinus,
right,
which for you history lovers is the spear that pierced Christ's side when he was crucified. But there's a misdirect even there,
right?
When Voller's like, it's fake, but I have something real for you, and so you kind of think this is going to be, the movie starts like it's
gonna be a story about that.
like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, or you know,
Totally.
it's it
Even
starts
with
off
him
as
running
a
on top of the train, I mean, like
right,
that's a direct
and there were
callback.
even music cues specifically
much.
from that movie that I enjoyed hearing, but then
Oh my
I
God, John
enjoyed.
Williams.
Well, we'll talk in a minute,
What a
but
dream.
I enjoyed that misdirect even at the top of the movie. But while we're at the top of the movie,
Yes.
what do we think of the extended look at Harrison Ford's de-aging?
Okay, because
Yeah, you
literally
say
this is very great one, because I feel like the last time I was on this podcast we were talking about something similar with the Flash.
Yes.
And like, in my humble opinion, exhibit A on to why people may have been tripping on the Flash, because I'm like, this was really well done, question mark,
Mhm.
to where it kind of like I was like, whoa, yeah, this is it, bro. This is like, if someone's gonna spend, what do you say, 300 million,
350 million, yeah.
350 million, and like some of that budget better be going to this, then like I want no excuse from this point on, because like
Yes.
this was great.
But I mean, this is what happens when you get direct access to the people at ILM, you know, and
Valid.
these guys are literally the best in the biz. And
It's insane though. It's insane.
It was like, it's definitely the best we've ever gotten. And which means that they're just continually getting better and better at it. So it's gonna, like, even within another year, it's gonna be even that much more.
Yeah.
But well, there are still some uncanny valley moments. I mean, sure, but
Yes.
I mean, like, but they
In
did
the
a
grand
fairly good
scheme.
job of like doing a lot of like lighting effects to like kind of misdirect your attention.
I was going to say, when he was kind of standing in the middle ground or far away from the camera, it looked unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think when it was really close up on him and he started talking, it's again the case of the human mouth just being the most difficult thing
it's
to
tough.
nail down, because everybody's mouth moves, even if slightly, so differently. And
they're glad that he's not as like, as far as his facial expressions go,
Yeah, right.
he's not
He's a grumbler.
He's a fairly subtle guy. So like, if for instance, if they were gonna ever try to like de-age me someday, they're like, no, we're just not gonna
No.
do that.
Leave him
we're
dead.
just not gonna do that.
No.
It's too hard.
No, but like when they pull the bag off his head, we'd seen it in the trailer,
Yeah.
but there was just something about seeing it in the movie, and we went, wow.
Holy cow.
I mean, wow.
Is actually crazy. Like,
That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was nuts. Yeah, there wasn't really the only time I got is when he started getting into some of his more actiony moments. Like when he was being like hung, and like he was like you know, falling from the different levels, you know,
And
with on fire and all that.
Yeah.
There was a couple moments where it was like, oh yeah, they you know, had a hard time mapping because he's moving around so much, maybe. But
Interestingly, and I don't know if you saw this, but my assumption was most of the Elder Jones's stunts incorporated a good deal of CGI. And it turns out, I mean, while it is true,
Yeah.
there are a fair number of shots that are done that way. His stunt doubles were built a mask of Harrison Ford's face.
weird.
really,
I'll send you a picture in our
I have to
group
see
text.
that. That's so
But
creepy.
there's a fair amount of times where he's not augmented. That they built I mean, down to the cheeks. Like, it's
That's some Mission
unbelievable.
Impossible shit.
Yeah.
whoa.
And they just cut out very small eye holes, but otherwise,
Ew, gross.
it was like somebody cut off Harrison Ford's face and
That
wore
is
it.
a
But
thing of nightmares. I'm sure
Yes.
it does. That looks spooky as
but
hell.
Dang.
I would caution them, like, for the 20 minutes, and as you said, Daniel, with the lighting effects and kind of the atmosphere, they're able to mask it, so it was probably wise to do it at nighttime.
Yeah, smart.
I would caution, and really this, I'm talking to Lucasfilm, I think,
Talking straight to you.
about trying to do that with Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and even Carrie Fisher, if you want to include them in stories. I would not do it often, and I wouldn't do it for long periods of time.
Correct.
Like, it just, I think there is still an element
It's
that
absolutely
it's hard
can
to
be
connect to.
effective.
It can be. It
Yes.
has to be
Just right.
in and out, you know, like.
Yeah, the end
Just a
of
touch of it.
season 2 of Mando, my God, I will never forget how I felt. I know I've said this a million times, but like, I that was probably
Yeah,
the
it was
most effective
unbelievable.
use of that, and it was so short.
I don't think you can build a movie around it.
Yeah, making that
I
your
would
central
find
character
that
would be hard.
I find that really hard to connect to. But for what this was, and to get the
Maybe
sense
if the
that
whole film was CGI or something like that, maybe. But yeah, even then.
I don't know. Like to have it for like the first 20 minutes and feel like you're back in the movie theaters in the 1980s watching an old Indiana Jones movie, that was thrilling.
That was rad.
But
Yeah, totally rad.
Also bold of them to like take the entire that because to do that effect for so long and it not be like a main part of the I guess the
Yeah,
extended timeline, like that's very bold for that. Like it was like
Super
it was like a
bold.
20-30 minute like opening sequence.
At the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Like that
right.
easily
And you
could
get
have
that
just...
wrong, people are done.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because your first impression is so important. We could have easily folded our arms and been like, nah, I'm good.
But now you know why they spent $300 million, because I don't have any knowledge or authority to speak on it, but I bet you they spent tens of millions of dollars just on that effect.
I hope
Probably.
so. I hope so because if they didn't, there some people got a lot of explaining to do.
Well, I know that a lot of the I know a lot of that technology already existed going into it, so they didn't. I mean, I'm sure they're still paying a lot of money for research and development because they're trying to make it better. But
Yep.
you know, it probably wasn't as expensive as maybe we might imagine. But
Because I'm trying to think of I mean what this movie cost. It's not fair to compare it maybe to the original three just because of the time they were made in and the
Right.
technology available, but I mean its costs ballooned, and there were
not
a
to
lot of
mention we
CG.
got like numerous not just like cameos from old characters, but cameos from new characters that are like, you know, big names like Antonio Banderas.
Sure.
I'm sure they paid
But
him a
even
cute-
before, you know, to spend almost $300 million before advertising, I was like, I mean, they went CGI heavy in a way that Indy never has, and I think that's actually where some of the detractors have their biggest problem. Is some of it felt, and I only felt this at a couple of moments. It really didn't bother me, but some of the big action sequences felt a little more superhero-y than maybe we're accustomed to with Indiana Jones. I'll go back to Last Crusade. Like I think about the fight on top of the tank
fucking
and how
great.
slow and monotonous it is, but it's always packed with danger and it feels just real.
And those punch noises are
Yeah.
honestly hilarious.
They're hilarious, but they work. Like
Yeah,
it's just
it
like
works.
you just accept it in your brain. But then I think to like some of the moments in this movie, while awesome to witness, there were a couple where you just kind of sit back and go, "Huh, I feel like I've seen that before," or
Sure.
Or
Well,
maybe
I mean,
it's just
and actually there was a few times where like I've already seen this in this film. Like we had like
there were a lot of
I'm not
chases.
gonna, it's gonna sound like a complaint because I mean it's just like I'm sure just give me more because it's delicious and fun. But we had like at least two, but potentially three car chase scenes that like through a city. I was like,
Yeah.
like we did one with a horse, and then there was two car chase scenes. I think that's fine.
And then the one with the tuk-tuk,
yes, right. Yeah,
which I thought that one was the best one because it
Same.
felt like Indy.
A little
Like
more
it's just
Indy,
it was
yeah.
kind of whimsical and
yes, and like the
swashbuckling and
I mean, they at least showed that the car broke down at the very end, but I'm like, how is this car working? Like literally, what in the world? But I'm still having fun.
what did you guys think about? We talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but what did you guys think about the dial itself as the object of interest? Do you think it was an effective?
Well, I mean,
plot
I already kind
tool?
of touched on that myself. I was like giddy as hell because I mean I recognized like at least what it was based off of, and like I love the idea because it just makes your imagination run wild. Because I mean, just thinking about it like in real life, like what that thing is, they roughly believe that it was something to map the stars and the
Right.
planets.
Right.
But I mean, like, why? So then you start like filling in all the blanks. And I love that they filled in the blanks with some really cool lore. I thought
Yes.
I enjoyed it personally.
Chris.
I thought it was great. I thought it was super fitting. Like, I feel like that fits the Indiana Jones kind of like model,
Mm-hmm.
and echoing everything Daniel said on, like, I love that it is a real artifact, and they kind of
Yep.
like created a story around it that I mean, I don't want to say is like too far out of the realm of possibility, because like it probably is, but like for whatever reason in today's society, with time travel and multi dimensions and tra la la, like it's not too far fetched for us to grasp.
Yeah,
Like
'cause there's so much
it felt
we don't
good.
know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, but I did too, and I think for the more emotional reason that the whole reason I think Harrison Ford returned to do this one was to really explore what the passage of time does to someone like Indiana Jones, and
Yeah.
and also speaking to
The
like
film I love that, like, because I immediately like felt I was vindicated about the time travel thing, because at the very beginning of the movie you hear like the clock ticking. It's like tick 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 tick.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, this is gonna be time travel. Here we go.
but I also think it helps speak to this larger idea of, I don't know, people in general wishing or imagining that something in the past is better than what we have. This nostalgia for things we didn't even experience, but yearning for this life that maybe never was. And I think that's why the third act of this movie, as bonkers as it was,
So wild.
worked so well, is because his desire to stay there, because he feels like he has nothing in his life that truly gives him
he's
meaning.
like,
I mean, that wrecked me. Like that idea of, because that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people who lose themselves in, whether it's our phones or something less dangerous like books, but people get lost to go somewhere that's not here. And it's not necessarily exclusive to unhappy people. I just mean, I think it had, this movie did a really great job of quite literally knocking him out and proving to him that
back,
he does. You do have something there is a life worth living here.
It was that line. It was heartbreaking. Yeah, when he's talking to what's her face, like in
To Helena.
Almost the last scene where he's just like, you have so much to live for. And he said, like, for who?
Yeah.
It was dramatic.
It was so sad. It's just like, he
Yeah.
doesn't really have anybody left in his life, but he did, though, which is so
But
sweet.
but that device, even if, I think out of I don't know. Let's think. So you had the Ark of the Covenant. You had the three chakra stones from Temple of Doom. You have the Holy Grail. You have the Crystal Skull. I think it fits in nicely with all of those. But this one kind of takes the idea of it is more important than what it actually does.
Right.
If that makes sense. Like
Yes.
the fact it takes him to this specific moment in time, the Siege of Syracuse in 212 BC, and him getting to meet Archimedes. And then what made me emotional about that was how emotional it made Archimedes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow, like I met somebody who gets it, to put it in
Yeah.
the lamest of terms, but
also how
this
sad,
mutual
too.
respect across generations.
And how sad and kind of tragic for him that, like, he built this machine so that somebody can come back to help him, to, like, but he was destined to die, and be captured by the Romans. Like, it's, very sad. The Dial of Destiny. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely was thrown, in a good way. And I think that there was a purposeful misdirect about the watch. Because we were talking about, like, I think it was only a few scenes earlier. It was just like, he took, when the kid steals his watch, he's like, no, that was my father's watch. It was like an important watch to him. And we don't really get a real good look at it, but then like we clock that the Archimedes, like his dead body has like a modern watch on him.
Yeah.
So we're thinking like, wait a minute, like, whose watch is that? And then we also see the watch on the bad guy. So now it's like, who is it going to be, his, or is it going to be like Indy's? And then when Indy decides that he's going to stay, you're thinking, oh man, like, his watch is there because Indy was there. Maybe oh my God. And later my brain was going like, wait, is Indiana Jones going to be Archimedes now? Like, he's going to take his place. I was like, what the fuck? Where is this movie going? But I'm curious if it threw you guys too or not.
I think it was one of those things for me where like you
didn't think too hard. You were just like watching
it like in the moment it caused like a question at like when it happened, but then as the story kind of went on, it was something that I kind of forgot about, and so by the time it came back around, like I was driving home and I was like, wait a second, how did that work out? Or like, whoa, and I had to like think about it for a moment, but I wasn't so distracted that I was like, whoa,
wait a minute.
Yeah,
I had questions that then gave birth to bigger questions. For instance, if he did stay,
what that would do.
Which, by the way, I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, same.
Because
same.
I was actually I then became very worried that that's how they were going to end it, with Indiana Jones being lost to history. And somebody even expounded on this on social media. They had suggested, well, the better ending would have been, what if he stayed behind and then Helena goes to some Roman museum in modern times and sees Indy's hat in there or something, he stayed.
Okay.
But
I don't know. I feel like we all would have been like, okay.
But like I really appreciate her reasoning, just the very logical conclusion of, you will change the very course of history if you stay. You can't stay.
Right, but
you'll ruin everything you've ever studied.
But with these rules, as because many different types of time travel theories out there, whether it's the if you change something in the past,
it'll change the
future. You create
an
alternate reality,
or
like you said, you have an alternate type of situation. Or like in the most recent, like in The Flash, it also changes your past too.
Where it becomes like an X of sometimes things are exactly the same and sometimes they're not,
But this in particular is more on the realm of everything is always been. So if you traveled back in time, then that is what you always were supposed to do. So whether
hence the destiny part.
Yeah, destiny. So whether or not Indiana Jones was supposed to stay or not, that apparently was up to her. Because that was what was destined to happen, I mean, if he was going to stay, that also would have been destined to happen, So I'm glad that they chose it this way. But I think that she didn't. I mean, because nobody explained to her the rules of time in this universe. But apparently, if she had let him stay, then that's just what was destined to always happen. And so.
And I did sit there wondering. I was sitting there wondering, when Archimedes comes up on the crashed plane and sees the dead Nazis, and wouldn't that have changed history? And that's a minor thing, and really in we'll call it my head canon, Archimedes at this point is smart enough to go, let's I'm gonna keep things to myself, and just like probably his I have a feeling most Greeks and Romans had no idea what that device could do, so I'm going to assume he just quietly cleaned it all up.
Yeah. So interesting. It really does. I mean, and I think that what I do love about, well, all of the Indiana Jones films in particular, but this one does a good job too. It for anybody that has even an ounce of curiosity, it it makes you want to go out and research it.
That is the best thing about these movies.
Yeah, and it
That is
really
the single best thing about them.
It just ignites your imagination, and you really do start to, especially in things like this, like the concept of when they're looking at his at Archimedes' tomb and his coffin in particular, how it has the picture of the phoenix, but it has like propellers on it.
Right.
And you start to be like, well, what the hell? And you can see that in history. Like, you'll hear descriptions of things in books where it's like, why does this sound like it's just like a misconstrued version of what we already have in modern times? You know what I mean?
Right.
Wait, you're tripping me out because I've watched, first of all, way too much Ancient Aliens and way too much crazy other shit.
So much.
There's a very specific Egyptian hieroglyph that came to my mind.
Oh, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about.
You do. You probably went on that tomb when there were like propellers on it.
Yes.
There is like a specific case in Egypt where these archaeologists found this hieroglyph, kind of like tile or plate or whatever you want to call it. And you can look it up. Everyone go Google this. It looks near identical. It's a helicopter and it's a plane and it's like a jet, and there's like no reasoning, but like you cannot reason your way out of it. It's like very clearly like a helicopter, a jet, and something else or whatever. And I haven't done too much.
Shit.
Apparently it's been debunked. Thank you. To where it was like one hieroglyph, and then time had passed, and then they had placed another hieroglyph on top of it, and so that it created this sort of thing.
Interesting.
But my conspiracy theory brain is like, no, absolutely not.
But wait, no, but even still, like you hear about all these like legends and mysteries of like people talk about like oh God, I mean, even in like the Greek pantheon, you talk about gods and all the things. Like you really start to wonder if there's like actual parallels to like what was really going on in that time, and like why would they think that person is a god? Why did they think that they had like godly like powers? Like what? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I was having this conversation with somebody recently about. I think we were just having a broad discussion about faith and the Bible.
This is getting deep, y'all.
In particular, but just the idea that whether you take any of it or none of it literally, there is something to be said that people weren't just making things up. They observed something or heard something.
Yes.
And then you play a game of telephone, perhaps, but there is to your point, Daniel, there is an inspiration for everything, and there are varying degrees of how real or not. But I think that's what these movies just nail. And it's so funny you made that point, because my parents saw it before I did, and my dad's the one who introduced me to Indiana Jones at a young age.
Cute.
I
do.
He got out, and
also it terrified me, like literally like melting faces. I think I was like 5 or 6 when I saw that. I was just like, I never want to drink out of a cup again.
Temple of Doom, I didn't sleep for a long time.
Jesus.
But my dad got out and he texted me and said it was excellent. I was like, okay, great. I was kind of worried about it, and he said, I feel like if you didn't like this movie, you didn't like history. That's all he's told me before the movie started. And then when I walked out, I went, yeah, because like it's maybe more than ever. They really leaned into it, and that third act was like they literally put him in history, and I love that. That does feel like the culmination of Indiana Jones, and I know some people that absolutely hated that. It felt like it was just so out in left field. But then I'm reminded the guy got an autograph from Hitler. The guy found the Holy Grail and met a knight who had been guarding it for hundreds of years.
Right.
He watched a man's heart get pulled out, and the guy survived.
Yeah.
watched the Ark of the Covenant melt people's faces. Like,
Right.
It's not out of the realm of possibility in this universe.
Yeah.
how crazy is it? I think it just goes back to our cynicism of like our hero has to be grounded in such disgusting human realism that it's just not fun anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what? The movie, I think, I mean, I'm not sure if this was purposeful or not, but it did kind of comment on, I think that taking place in the 60s, but specifically like the moon landing and everything.
Yeah.
Well, you look back at like all of his earlier films where, you know, he's teaching in class and like all the people, well, first of all, he's just like a dreamboat and he's fucking sexy and that's why everybody's so interested. But also like, you know, the kids are like more interested, you know, because it's like it's you know, history. But now that we're like going into space, people are like, he's in class like trying to teach people. They're like, they're not even studying.
They couldn't
they're not
care
even reading
less
their
about
books. They're
this
like,
guy.
I don't give
No.
a shit about history anymore. Like, but what about space? That's cool, you know. So I think that like all of us now are kind of very distracted and not like. I mean, and you know, and it's understandable. Like people want to like look forward, but I mean, it's important to look behind us too, because you know, you can't learn and be better if you don't learn from the past.
Yeah, no, that I think that's a great observation. And I've just been interested in the discourse on this movie more than a lot of movies recently, because there's another sect of people that has formed that kind of fall into the opinion of, why do we have to drag our heroes of the past through the mud like this and take everything from them? And
It's
like,
just the
isn't that
Luke
kind of played
Skywalker
out?
effect,
Yeah, or the people who didn't like The Last Jedi, or
Sure.
or even Han to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's maybe the best comparison, because Harrison Ford just did it with Han Solo. But
funny that you bring up the comparison. I mean, just really quick, the it didn't bother me, but I definitely like drew the line together about the fact that Harrison Ford in both films got divorced because they lost their son.
well, yeah, I was about to get there, and I think this one did it better.
I do agree.
I really do.
Yeah. It had a more emotional and believable impact, I think. Yeah.
Which is so funny because of the hatred people had for Shia LaBeouf's character, which is not warranted. I went back and watched it. Like, it's just not warranted.
Yeah.
It's like fine. Like,
his
I don't
performance is
understand.
perfectly plausible.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's in the 50s. Of course he's a greaser.
But then, knowing that, and that movie was 15 years ago, and most people hated it, myself for a time. But then the emotional impact of just there was something just so sad's not the right word. It's just melancholy, and it's deeper than sad. It's just an aching, and you feel for him, and that's when I honestly think the usage of Marion in this movie compared to Crystal Skull was far more effective as well, even though she was in half that movie.
Totally.
Her just walking through that door, and Karen Allen's performance, even this short little scene where she comes in, she seems tired. You feel the weight of their divorce the moment she opens the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know everything about what their relationship is right now. It's two people who are talking past each other. She's like, "You're going to get yourself killed, old man." Like, it's just this... I just felt this profound sadness, but also profound joy for that moment. And I think it's the perfect... That third act up into the credits was, I think, the perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
It really was.
This is off topic a little
Okay.
bit,
Yep.
not really, because it still involves the movie.
Yeah.
You know the bad guy's two henchmen, and
yes.
one of them is like the size of a building.
Yes.
Okay, I saw that dude at the carpet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is he a giant
Bro?
person?
I don't think I've ever been more physically terrified in my life. He, I think, is the biggest person I've ever witnessed.
He's a big boy.
It's not only that he's tall, he's wide. Like he's
like
hu-
He's
a
built
massive
like,
person.
Like Wreck-It Ralph.
literally built
Yeah.
like Wreck-It Ralph. I was wearing my tallest shoes, and I kid you not, I came up to here.
Oh my God.
Which of those are just listening is like below his chest. And we like bumped into each other on the way out of the theater.
Wonderful.
And I was like, I was like, congratulations. And then just like
he falls into the pantheon of just ridiculous and great Indiana Jones henchmen.
Yeah.
Like there's always one of them
it's
who's
always great.
The enforcer.
Yeah, he was terrifying. And also the younger actor, the kid, that was his first movie.
Oh, get out. Good for him.
Can you believe?
Oh my
The
God.
short round for our times.
Yeah.
Yes. That was his first movie ever.
Job.
I was like, wow. What a way to come out the gate swinging.
I'm trying to remember his name.
I mean, I know it feels like it probably would have been like the most obvious like nostalgia train, but I mean, like we already were doing that with Sala.
Ethan Isidore.
Oh, that's
thank you.
Played Teddy.
Thank you.
Yep.
We're gonna hear that name more often, I think.
Bro.
But yeah, I was just gonna say that like we did the nostalgia train with like Sala and a couple other characters, but like I think it probably would have been like maybe a little overkill in this nostalgia, but I don't think that anybody would have minded having Short Round in this movie.
No.
And I that is probably the only like real disappointment, if there is any, for me, is just like they could have put him in there somewhere. Just
and
anywhere.
look, Sala, he really was kind of I would say just in his usage in this movie the definition of fan service.
Yes,
but it's the most effective usage of it I've seen recently. I think because they used parts of his speech in the trailer, but when he said, I miss the desert, I miss the sea, I miss yes, I miss waking up to see what adventures the new day would bring, and
I miss the sand.
But when you're sitting there listening to him, and it just takes you on a ride to the first time you saw these movies, and
it really does inspire adventure, like,
right? Just let the wind kick up and take you wherever it goes.
Yeah.
And
we get stuck in these cities, and just in our city life doing day by day. Gotta get out there and look for buried treasure.
Yeah, it was that like well-placed nostalgia. It was just like
it really was. It was well
utilized
done.
really well.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit about him, but Mads Mikkelsen as Voller, the Nazi scientist. It's not a compliment, but he's a great Nazi. I mean, Mads Mikkelsen. When they cast Mads Mikkelsen as a Nazi, I was like, oh yeah, that checks out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Easy.
You're a good Nazi.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a good Nazi.
Daniel, do you remember he was sitting at breakfast in our hotel in Saudi Arabia?
Whoa! I totally forgot about that.
And nobody went up and talked to him.
Because
he was there for Saudi Comic-Con, but he was reading his book over a plate of eggs, and I was like, I can't say anything to him. But
it's because he's kind of scary.
I mean, intimidating for sure.
That's the word I'm looking for.
And a super versatile. Like when I say he's a good Nazi, that's not what he does exclusively. He is such a versatile actor, but man, that was like that's central casting.
Yeah.
But I liked the misdirection even in his plot, because you kind of get the sense you knew he wanted to go back in time, but then he's like, I'm going to go back in time and kill Hitler.
Yeah. Wait. What?
Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a ballsy move.
And try and redirect the course of the war.
That much.
No, he just cares about Germany.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Did you find there was? I knew he was nails on this role. When we flash forward to 1969, and he's up in the hotel room and he's getting room service. And the black attendant comes in with his breakfast.
Are you enjoying
this was spooky.
He's like, "Are you enjoying your victory?"
Ew.
And that line in and of itself,
just
about this time in American history, and we're just coming out of segregation, and that's where my head went. I don't know if that was literally what it was meant.
It was multi-layered for sure.
Yeah,
but he's like, "I hope you're enjoying your victory." And I'm like,
there was a lot of layers in like not only that line, but just that like scene in general. There was like so many layers to it where I was like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable, but this is great. This is great film.
Yeah, the other layer the other layer being this guy's a Nazi, and if he had
Right.
his way, anybody who looked like you would be dead.
Right.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
just
yeah.
So scary.
but really, really, really solid writing.
Mm-hmm.
What did we think of Phoebe Waller-Bridge as Helena?
Great.
Do we think
Honestly,
he fits in the world?
I thought she was great. I've heard
I'm
otherwise,
sensing a
but
butt. Oh, okay. Not a butt.
no, I've just heard otherwise. But I think
What
that's
is the
because she
otherwise that
did
you've
it.
heard?
I heard that she wasn't likable, and I'm like, she wasn't supposed to be likable in like the first half of the movie.
Yeah,
so
right.
she did a good job. So you're
supposed
welcome.
to see her journey, you idiot.
Yeah. So, but I disagree. I think she did a great job, and
Yeah.
I think even though she wasn't likable or quote unquote not likable,
Because she
like
did some naughty things.
yeah, but I think there was still something to like about that.
Yeah,
I'm
me
like,
too.
that character type, you know what I mean? So I thought she was great.
Every good character has to have a pretty severe character flaw. Otherwise, they're not believable. And it's not as fun. Indiana Jones has got several character flaws, but I mean, and it's not, well, one of them is not really a character flaw. It's more just like it's just like something we can latch on to that we know that they like really dislike or whatever it is. And his happens to be snakes. But I mean, like, but yeah, as long as, so we know that she's got, she has a compulsion to, for money, and so she's got a little bit of
Well,
greed going on.
and psychologically damaged by her father's obsession with the Antikythera, which made a lot of sense. And then she sees that, she sees those same tendencies in Indy, I think, and that's kind of where they butt heads. But
I feel like
then,
that was a great plot device.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, and Indy kind of, I don't know, giving her a peace of mind that, it's when he says, your father was a brilliant man, and
Yeah.
after they've kind of started putting the pieces together, and she, kind of holding back tears, says, "Yeah, I know."
He was my boyfriend.
And I think Indy is kind of channeling the best parts of her father, and that's why I think she comes around to his worldview and ultimately doesn't let him stay. And,
Yeah.
She starts worrying about things that are bigger than herself, like the fabric of time. And
Well, and he points to her, he points out to her that, that she clearly cares about this kid.
Yeah.
So like there's definitely, she's not, there's something, there's a nice spark of good going on in there.
Yes.
So he definitely ignited the spark.
It's the way that they killed Antonio in Cold Blood for me.
there was a lot of cold blood killing in this.
Yeah.
Just popped him,
these
bro.
were bad guys.
Oh my god, the poor like teacher people.
Yeah,
And
the faculty
Oh my
at
gosh.
college.
In the hallway, just
Which,
laid
by the
out.
way,
so scary.
There is precedent for the U.S. government just pardoning Indy for things he does. But
Yeah, right.
we never quite get closure on we thought Indiana Jones murdered the staff at Hunter College.
Yeah,
and,
we kind of dropped
but
that a little bit. That's
I think the
fine.
assumption is somebody who knew him
He's fine.
spoke to his qualities. And
That being said, he's been, I guess that will happen after, the scene, because we saw him just like wake up after being,
right.
So
They'll smooth it out.
eventually. But yeah, it's interesting. So like, I know we're not really done with our conversation, but I mean, the ending, like the very end,
That's what I was going to ask about. Are we alluding to more? Because I feel like it's been confirmed that there's no more.
Here's my thought. I think it's yes and no. I think that they don't want to, because you never say never.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That being said, it's a no, and it's like
It's a big no,
a
like
big
from
no.
Harrison himself.
Yeah, right. Of course, he said that also about number 4 too, but it's neither here nor there. I think that he's made it quite clear that this is the end, and also, in terms of the story, I think they were much better off, like whether even if this is the final finale, they're better off leaving it open-ended because it lets our imagination just imagine that he lives on forever and he gets to keep going on adventures. And that's a beautiful, wonderful way. Nobody wants to hear that your fucking like childhood hero like retires and then passes away and then, passes the baton on to somebody else that we don't give a shit about. You know what I mean? Like that would have been a really unfortunate end, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad that they went this way because we get that. Yeah, it's now we get to use our imagination that like he's gonna have a really fucking great like end of his life.
Right, and it's not much different, honestly, than the ending Last Crusade gave us when, at the time in
Riding off into the
1989, yeah, right, there was no anticipation of a fourth
sequel.
film, but it's like we did the deed, off into the sunset to
quite literally off into the sunset,
chase the next adventure, and I think that's what this does.
Great. Yeah. I can there be another one? Maybe. That being said, I will say because of the unfortunate, box office that they've had, hard to say.
Let him sleep.
Well,
let him sleep.
Let him sleep.
Well, yes, let him sleep, because the reason this is different than when he came back for 4 is he explicitly mentioned, I don't think we left him in 4 where I wanted to leave him.
Yeah, that's also fair.
I mean, he said that out loud, and he has since said, I think James Mangold had the right idea on where to leave him in this one. And really, that third act felt like
a nice little bow.
It felt like the end.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like
what
I have actually gone into history, and
yeah.
I mean, where else do you take Indiana Jones if not into history?
Technically, you could say that he is now part of history.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a finale for him.
Yeah. And then you could tell that, like, and like the way that they directed him in it was to kind of like feel that finality.
Yeah.
And it worked for me. I think it was the right move.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like all 3 of us were just real big fans of this movie, and I would say my biggest qualms were
John Williams. Wow, he is so garbage.
Somebody get him some composition classes.
He is over 90, and man, does he
we
still
haven't even
not
talked
have
about the maestro, but my God, I think actually, he's done a lot of work in the last 5-6 years, but
yeah,
I would say significantly the sequel trilogy of Star Wars comes to mind, and I thought the score for this movie was the best of his recent Lucasfilm.
It was perfect.
So pretty.
It had just enough nostalgia, but his new theme for Helena is beautiful.
So beautiful.
I loved the chase music is always something he's always been really good at, and it's so thrilling and swashbuckling, and
all the horns.
And then he knows exactly when. He knows exactly what he's doing, what button he's pressing at what moment, and he's made far lesser movies much greater than they had any business being, because
correct.
he knows which emotional buttons to press.
So like he was there opening night.
Oh my gosh!
And like not only was he there, but we got like a surprise full orchestra concert, and like we all cried because it was just like it was insane. Like it was insane, and like he spoke about actually Helena's theme in particular, and a few of the other pieces, and we were all just like,
"Oh, whoa,
what?" It was crazy, and I think he may or may not have been introduced by Steven Spielberg. So it was just like it was like,
oh yeah,
it was insane.
There was I don't know if you've seen there's not to take away from the moment of talking about John Williams, but there is a TikTok that pointed out when Steven Spielberg was introducing John Williams, his introduction was basically like, there are 3 people that like are the reason why Indiana Jones is a thing, and it's like this person. It's George Lucas, who's the creator of Indiana Jones, and everybody's like, yeah, I love you. And then it's of course Harrison Ford, and everybody's like, woo. And then the glue that held everything together, and like he's standing right next to his ex-wife, what's her face, Kathy.
Yikes! Didn't notice that. Didn't notice that at the time.
And like, and he's like John Williams, and like they zoom in on her face, like super zoom, and she's just like, it's okay. I know I was there too, but I know.
It definitely was like a weird
Kathleen
kind
Kennedy,
of
sorry,
like.
there we go. Sorry, I couldn't think of her name.
Ah, yes. It was a weird experience because like very fortunate to have gone to a few of these, but this one was like it was like actual legends, like legends, like the legends amongst legends, you know what I mean? And we were just like, what is going on? This is crazy, bro.
And you were at the Dolby?
Yes.
Yeah. There was but it was filled to the brim, right?
To the brim.
To the brim.
And like I was
and you were like the front damn row too.
Literally in the front row, like front right. I definitely watched the movie like this.
Your neck was
but like worth it
afterwards. Yeah.
worth it for sure.
Yeah, I would say I think the length, I think it was a little long, but I think that's okay for a finale of this kind.
Yeah.
And then as I mentioned towards the beginning, I think it might have been because they were allowed a budget of that size. I almost fear that gives them license to go really heavy-handed on big CG set pieces that I just don't think are necessary. Because in Indiana Jones, the action has always been epic in its own way, but not to kind of go back to what I was saying, not Avengers level.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning, and not saying that really anything like what happened in this movie approached to that, but some of it felt a little too big.
Sure.
And
I'm really interested to see how this plays with like the timeline of just cinema in general, because like when CG started coming out, it was like the price was warranted because it was like, this has never been done before. This is great.
Sure.
And now I feel like the audience perspective and is just the perspective in general is kind of shifting back to where like spend more money and make it quote unquote real, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like make it as practical as possible because like that feels better. And I'm like really interested to see where that goes.
Well, and that's interesting too. There's a school of thought that think about. Granted, it's hard to compare with because you have to take inflation into account and all of that. So you can't take movie budgets from the 1980s and translate them. But I do think there is a school of thought that said if you limit your own resources, it forces you to get creative in how you achieve making a really good movie. And it's some of those creative steps that guys like Spielberg and George Lucas took that made things iconic.
Yeah.
Because of the ingenious ways they came up with them instead of realizing it on a computer with 150 digital artists, which is not to say that shouldn't be done or it's not impressive, because it is, and it's art in its own right. But I don't know. Say you made this movie for half of what you actually made it for. You're turning a profit in 3 weeks, and you probably still get the same effect. I think.
Yeah.
Arguably, yeah.
I don't know.
Again, I'm just interested to see like how that plays out in the grand scheme of things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Because
it's and it's not, well, it's kind of related, but I think it's like when things become a little too real, it's like then it feels not like cinema anymore. And it's like something different. Like we had a moment where we were like, even just the frame rate of the film changes the feeling. You know, because we were like, the technology was getting so good that we could like have better than what does their film normally have? Not 60 frames. Is it 40 or 50? I can't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head what
film.
the standard frame rate is, but 60. Remember when they put The Hobbit out in theaters in 60 frames per second?
I do, and
it looks like a camcorder.
Yeah, it literally looked like we were on set with.
It looks like we were on set. It was jarring.
Yeah,
I also felt that way about Avatar: The Way of Water, because that movie
Oh.
goes in and out of like different frame rates, and there were some points where I was watching in theater where I was like,
My brain.
I literally can't even comprehend this information.
Yeah.
Like, and it was beautiful, granted, but also
Sure.
I'm like,
It was
this
a huge
is a
flex of
lot.
technology for sure.
Yeah, this is a lot for me to understand. Right
I can't
now.
remember. Did you see it in one of the theaters where? Because there was only like
the-
certain theaters that showed the
No, 'cause
frame
that was
rate
on the-
that James Cameron.
The standard frame rate, by the way, is 24 frames per
Oh,
second.
there you go. I knew it was lower than I
So-
thought. Yeah.
No, I saw that on the carpet as well. So it was like in the
Oh,
bougiest
in the
of
big
bouge.
cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was bougie as bouge, and it was like insane to witness. But
Yeah.
also, I'm like,
What the hell?
I think that movie, I'm not gonna say warranted it, but like it fit for that movie because like they were their goal was just to make it as pretty and as insane as possible.
Yes.
But like out of context, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You start to be like, are we playing? Are we?
Yeah,
Playing
what are
a
we
really
doing?
Dope video game, or are we watching a movie?
I need to know what we're doing here, guys, because I'm getting stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, look, it was a terrific farewell. I can't wait to see it again, honestly. Without the anxiety of I hope I like this.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
I'm
also
looking
same.
forward to seeing it again. But what a farewell to an icon of that genre.
Mhm.
I mean, quite literally reinvented the summer adventure film. And,
Oh, and he still looks great.
he looks fantastic. I mean,
Guy's
he's always
ripped
had
to shreds. What the
he's
hell?
always had the acting chops as well. I'm glad he got to flex those muscles a little more in this one.
And quite literally flex his muscles. My
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
There's that.
And I'm gonna be an archaeologist now, so I'm
Okay, cool,
just
great.
moving to Egypt, and just want to let you all know, and see you guys soon, I guess.
Well, any final thoughts from either of you, or dare I say we covered it?
I
think we covered it.
I'm pretty sure. Oh, I guess maybe going forward, do you think that we're gonna see? If we don't see another Indiana Jones, do you think we'll see another? What's her face?
Helena?
Yes.
No.
Oh,
I'm gonna say firmly no.
I think probably same.
I don't think so either. But that isn't. I hadn't thought about that. That's an.
I think
interesting...
Short Round is more likely.
I want that too, but only because
I don't think that will happen, but that's because he just won an Oscar.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I know,
Valid,
like
valid.
he has worth. I mean, he
Oh, yeah.
had worth, but like now he's
And
like,
talent. That wasn't a shot at the fact he just won it. He has
No.
talent that
Yeah.
they could
He's a
build around. But
talented person.
I think Lucasfilm will be wise to leave Indiana Jones to history.
Hang the hat. Yes.
Let him sleep, bro.
Let
Let him sleep. He's tired. His shoulders are shot.
Do you know what I mean?
He has
Just
a
let him
plate in one
sleep.
leg and screws in the other. Just
love
let
that
him
too.
rest.
My dad leaned over to me. He's like, "I'm just like Indiana Jones now. I've got screws in my feet too."
I
Like,
love
that's
it.
Bless
adorable.
him. Well, all right then. Thanks, Indy, for all the memories.
Oh, thanks for the memories. And thank you, Chris.
And thank you, Chris.
Thank you guys, and to all
What
the
a treat.
listeners.
Yeah.
Wow, the treat was all mine.
Well,
if you're not following him, you should.
yes.
You go and find him on pretty much anything at Chris
Oh,
Millen.
You're
It's kind
very
of a big
kind.
deal.
Some people think that.
The ones that matter.
The ones that matter think that.
That's
So
correct.
do with that information what you will.
Yes. Well, this has been Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Dino Nicandros.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Chris Villain.
May the force be with you always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.